Welcome to the Impact in Charlotte podcast, where we believe you need to show up to go up, grow yourself to grow your business and your community. In each episode, we highlight a member of Charlotte, share their story, and talk impact. Today's guest is John Elvington. John is the CEO of Modulex Carolinas, which is a design build firm for internal and external signage. Thanks for joining us today, John.
Hey, thanks, Dave, for setting this up.
Yeah. Well, you and I have known each other for a little while, but I want to, invite the guests to kind of hear your story of how you became an entrepreneur and what led you to, kind of taking on the Modulex Carolinas.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I started this business about 8 or 9 years ago. I've been working in this industry for about 25 years. And just along the way, this is a very tangible type industry that I'm in. And where I saw the gap was in process and listening and understanding people before delivering a solution. So I thought that was a great way to tackle the market and just surrounded myself with an awesome team of people that could support me along the way. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah. So say a little bit more about, kind of what you saw around process. So you mentioned kind of a people element in that, right? Like in how you engage in conversation. Say a little more, because I mean, ultimately what you do is, it's kind of like manufacturing. You help people find their way in a
Yeah, right.
business or in an environment, but finding your way, there's probably lots of different ways you can interpret that. There's lots of different ways you can point in a direction. So there's a style element to it. There's a look element to it. Talk a little bit more about kind of how you partner with somebody in that, or kind of what that conversational element might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything we do should be driven through experience, and experience can be a versatile word, right? Experience of the client, experience of individual members of the client's team, experience within the company, experience from employee to employee, experience with vendors, suppliers, different things. So what I try and do is where I saw the void was, I tell people that I can deliver you the the best looking, most cost effective sign on the wall. But if the process of getting it on that wall is horrible, you'll never work with me again. And 9 out of 10 clients agree with that, right? I mean, anybody can make and build something and say they use the best materials, but who can actually say they deliver the best process that is driven by customer experience? And I think that's where we strive. We're not perfect, but it just creates this fluid and dynamic environment where we work within the comfort level of the client, and we guide them through our experience.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about the customer experience, you're talking about your customers from a process perspective,
Yeah.
but the customers that you're serving have customers who are going to be using their space, right? So you're kind of, that customer service energy, or that kind of concept or the thought that you're creating with them then carries over to the user experience. Kind of how do you engage your clients in thinking about their own user experience?
Yeah, and look, and especially today, we all know that those experiences have changed. And I mean, healthcare is a much different client or human engagement, and that's different than a corporate or retail. And and most of the time we speak it through our own eyes. I mean, most of the time we show up to a facility or engage with that client the first time. We tell them the experience that we had arriving at their facility, or we notice inconsistencies in their nomenclature or their branding. And we just ask them questions based on that. And we say, what is your goal? Why did you call us? And, what are we hoping to accomplish? And then we just walk through them. We make it very visual. We engage with them. We give them options. And we just make sure they're super comfortable with what we're proposing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relating that to, in some ways, it's part of the story, right? So when we talk about brand, we talk about, what's your brand, what's your image, what does your company look like? I think often, now we think about digital, right? Like,
Yep.
what's your logo? How's your social media platforms, et cetera. but there is, for hospitals or retailer, the things that you mentioned, there's a very physical nature to that brand as well. I mean, how do you see signage? How do you see that kind of helping them tell their brand story?
Yeah, and it's about demographics, right? It's about tell me the type of people that you're marketing. Tell me the type of people that come here. And you said it, digital is the new way, right? I mean, we all hold these great supercomputers or super informative machines in our hands, and a lot of people are trying to push to that. But in reality, there's still a large population of people who just don't want to engage with those on a from an identification and wayfinding perspective. So you have to keep both elements, right? The digital tech savvy people, but also the old school, hard sign on the wall, wayfinding and identification. So it's just talking them through that and just making them understand they have to communicate to all levels of people who visit their facility.
Hmm. Well, I think, we've all, at least I've been in a hospital, or I've been in an airport, or I've been somewhere
Hmm.
where it's like, I have no idea where I am. This building is huge, but I need to get there fast.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
there's, I love the juxtaposition of, the work you do. When you think about manufacturing, you think, that kind of tangibility. Um, you think of like metal and like structure,
Hmm.
etc. But
Yeah.
I think there's such an art to it as well, of like, where do you put it, and how are you kind of coaxing someone or helping someone. Like, I even think about like, well, where are your eyes looking as you're walking through this hallway, and how does that sign
Hmm.
kind of meet you in that place? So, I mean, I think there's a lot of design in what you do. How do you perceive that? I mean, how do you kind of coach someone through thinking about design?
Yeah, and a lot. Yeah, you're right. I mean, if the contrast isn't correct, if it's off, which means if the background color is too close to the copy color, then people can't read the sign very well. There's colorblind people out there, so you have to keep that in mind as well. Size of the copy, the font of the copy, the height of where the sign is, the angle of the sign. There's a lot that goes into it, and we work a lot with direct end users as well as environmental graphic designers, interior designers, architects, to make sure. And when I say the word design means many different things. We focus on the functional and the aesthetic to make sure there's both sides to that, because we have to make sure the sign is aesthetic, right? That it doesn't necessarily stand out as an eyesore in the environment, but it complements the environment, and it's functional, which means it works. The client can maintain it very well. They can update it very easily, and it's the cost of ownership isn't really high, but it looks nice. So people get surprised when we really start going through the design part of a sign, how many questions and how many influencers go into what the sign really looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really interesting. I think, the folks like, Chip and Joanna Gaines, or, some of those kind of well known designers, some of the things that are really important in what they do is the functionality of the design, right? Like, it has a certain
Hmm.
aesthetic, it has a certain look, but then you also, I often think about those places. I'm like, well, how long does it look like that? So
Yeah.
even having that idea of maintenance or whatever. But I think, bringing design to the forefront is important. And, a recent project you all worked on that got some press that I thought was, a restoration, but a beautiful example of kind of function and design, is the Park Road shopping center.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that project and kind of what that meant for you and your company.
Yeah, that was such an amazing experience. I mean, in my 25 years, uh, you know, I don't think we'll ever see another. I mean, I hope we do, but another Park Road type. I mean, the client Edens really, approached us with a tremendous opportunity to partner with them. We've earned their trust, and to really take a staple of the Park Road Shopping Center in Charlotte. And off the top of my mind, there was two or 300 pieces. We took each part down. This thing was built in the 1950s. We cataloged each piece, took the old stuff off, did some environmental testing on the paint and for asbestos to make sure it was correct, and or make sure there wasn't anything there that was toxic. Sandblasted every piece down, refinished it, refinished the letters, really updated the structure to make sure it was sound. So for another, you know, 60, 70, 80 years beyond this, that sign will maintain its value, to the visitors to Park Road. So it was an experience for us because we learned a lot, really about the restoration process. Took us a little bit longer than we had planned, but I don't think I would change anything that we did to make sure the client got more than what they expected on that project.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, having been there since the restoration, I can say the sign's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
I like that story of, I think when most of us think about the places or the buildings that we visit, we don't really cognitively think about the signage for the most part, but it has
Mhm.
has a considerable impact on the user experience, but we don't think about it. Like I think about the sterile version of, like a room 101 sign that's just like a, flat plaque, but there's some
Mhm.
beautiful signs. There's some things that really, help tell that story or, have meaning that I think go beyond.
Yeah, and the funny thing, the interesting thing about when we started dismantling the Park Road sign was just the amount of oh no feedback we got on social media, which people really thought that the sign was going away. So there was a lot of feedback about, oh my gosh, I remember going there when I was a kid, and that sign means so much. I remember that sign, and so it was just a nice overall experience for us as well. Just making sure that we maintained that memory for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, obviously it turned out really well, and it still has the original style and look,
Yeah.
carry
Hmm.
on the tradition, but with a fresh coat and a fresh sense. I
Exactly.
want I want to shift directions just a little bit. And I
Yeah.
want to talk about, so, you've been running this company you mentioned for 8 or 9 years. I just want to talk real quick or ask a couple questions around kind of what it means to be, when you're the CEO. We often talk about how trouble floats, right? So like things in
Mhm.
organizations, if it happens, at this level, it kind of floats its way up to the top eventually if it's a complex and hard enough problem. And so we all in Charlotte kind of value the connection with other business leaders. Just talk a little bit about kind of, how you leverage or rely on, or kind of what it's meant to network with other business leaders and how that helped you in your own entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard this before. I mean, I've said it. Ownership can be a lonely place, especially if you're a sole owner. It is nice to have a sounding board, to not only listen to other business owners that are looking for perspective, but also a trusted environment for me to sit around with people who I've gotten their trust, and I trust them to be able to share some topics and hypotheticals that I necessarily don't have the environment to share anywhere else. And it's just great to have that and that confidence, and I can't. In the past 3 or 4 years, I've been part of a couple different groups, and II Charlotte's been terrific because it keeps that small group experience, but it has that high impact and high value outcome that I'm looking for. So it's been super valuable.
Yeah. Well, what's maybe the best advice you've ever received uh, from someone about kind of running your own business?
Oh,
Curious,
wow.
curious
It's
what you would
yeah,
offer.
I'll probably butcher this, but for some reason, this one thing, stuck out for me. And when I first started this business, as as an entrepreneur, I had a business model. I'm like, this is the how I'm going to do it. This is the path I'm going to go. And here I am, 8 or 9 years later, and the business is completely kind of, taken its own path depending on what our clients need. And I haven't been able to do it without employees. Like I said, I may butcher this, but someone said, you know, um, they are, without employee, they're probably the biggest pain of owning a business sometimes is your employees, but you couldn't have your business without it, right? And you just have to learn to listen to your employees, understand your employees, and give them the environment to be accountable, but also have a voice. I tell every employee has a voice. as long as they do it respectfully. And I think that gives people environment that they may not get outside of this building, outside of my company. So I think it's been a staple for me to deal with the employees, kind of challenges you face on a daily or weekly basis, but understand that, without those employees, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I've heard you say multiple times that, with how many ever employees you have, they have families and they have people they're
Mm,
responsible for. And, you've mentioned at times kind of carrying the weight of like, I don't just have my, 20 some employees. I've got their families too that are responsible. And so bringing those employees
yeah.
in, like, I know you carry that as a business owner, but, hopefully the other people are carrying that as well to a degree, like that weight is kind of shared. But
Yeah.
you've shared with me, about kind of the culture you try to create. When you think about creating you talked about kind of creating an environment for your employees. What are some of the pieces that you think, you've seen in your years of leading a company that are kind of like, these are just core elements of a good culture?
Yeah. I really think, and I say this in company meetings, is every employee has a voice, and you would be surprised how much that opens opportunities for um, for employees. I mean, like I said earlier, is that some employees, no matter depending on their past or whatever's happened, is that they may have never been given a chance uh, to speak their mind of, hey, I think there's a better way of doing this, or some people, this may be their only out, their only um, out, of their life, which they come in and they engage with people that they like to be around, because outside of this building, they may not have the most comfortable life out there. So I give people opportunity to prove themselves and to voice their feedback and voice their concerns. Um, and I think that just creates a very positive but accountable culture, because I protect this culture a lot, which is happy people that they want to be here. We're an experience driven company. And once again, that word experience is not just about our engagement outside of this building, it's about engagement inside this building. And you would be surprised, I think, how people manage themselves when they're around like minded people.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. As you mentioned, people are such a critical part of the success of
Hmm.
any business, but it can also be, one of the most time consuming, challenging things when that culture doesn't align with who's in the room or how they show up in the
Hmm.
room. It can be one of the biggest challenges, but also obviously one of the greatest assets. Um, well, we're approaching our time, so I want to wrap up. I want to give you your 30-second pitch. We already mentioned the Park Road sign, but give us a 30-second. What are you working on? What are you thinking about? What do you want us to know?
Yeah, well, I mean, from a business side, I mean, we're working a lot. I mean, we're kicking off some really good projects. Just our pitch and our focus is around the corporate healthcare multifamily markets. We have about 23 employees here, based out of Fort Mill, South Carolina, with an office in Raleigh. And we just truly enjoy working with partners who like to take advantage of our full range of capabilities and people. So, I look forward to I look forward to the feedback on this program. And once again, you can check out modulexcarolinas.com and reach out to me direct through that website if you've got any questions.
Great. Yeah. If you want to check out some of the sign work they've done or some examples, modulexcarolinas.com is the place to do it. And there are some beautiful things on there. It's kind of fun to see the work that you've done. Thanks for joining us today, John. As always, appreciate your wisdom, and grateful to know you and be connected to you.
Hey, Dave, thanks. Same here to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
That's a wrap for today's broadcast. Join us next time, as our guest will be Madison Levine, who is the owner of Levine Hearing. Thank you for listening to the iMPACT in Charlotte podcast, where we believe you need to show up to go up. Grow yourself to grow your business and your community. If you want to learn more about II Charlotte, visit iicharlotte.com. And remember, impact begins with II. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.